Hey everyone, I'm Kim, the mom boss behind Emery and Kay, and today I'm going to show you my weathered barnwood tumbler tutorial. I'll go ahead and put a picture of it on the screen now for you to see. This tumbler is actually inspired by an old barn that we have on our property, and I was playing outside with our kids in the yard a few weeks ago, and I was just kind of looking at the weathered wood on it where it's kind of peeling and flaking, and I thought I want to put that on a tumbler. So I started playing with textures, and I adore how this tumbler came out. And I decided for decals, I wanted to do something that kind of went with our yard, that reminded me of happiness in summer here in Maine. And sunflowers is that for me. We always grow a ton of those in our garden, which is by our barn. And I thought, let's go with sunflowers. And of course, I had to spice those up a little bit and use some printed vinyl. So all in all, this tumbler, I love how it came together. It was so fast and so simple to make. So I will list and link everything that I use in the description box below. I will also have a few discount codes down there for you as well if you want to save on some of the goods. I think that's that. Let's get to it. As always, we're going to start with our prepped and painted cup. I'm using a 20-ounce straight from Hog, and it has been painted with heirloom white from Rust-Oleum. I'm going to grab my alcohol inks. These are from Marabou. I'm using Slate, which is kind of a charcoal gray, and Sweet Chestnut, a really nice brown. So to apply our inks, we're actually going to be using one of these little like straw cleaning tools. And as you can see, I kind of bent the tip of mine into almost an L to make it easier. So I'm going to put a little stripe of the alcohol ink into just a cheap plastic bowl. And you can do one color at a time or two. You can kind of play around with it. And decide what you like the best. So after that, I'm just going to kind of dip my little brush into my alcohol ink. I don't want a ton on there, I just want a little bit. I do recommend that you kind of practice on some cardstock or cardboard or something before going onto your cup, so you can figure out how much ink you want on your little brush and the pressure, because the more pressure you do, the lines are thicker. As you can see on my cup, that's kind of scattered right now. That's because I didn't use a lot of pressure. So you can just kind of practice and figure out the look that you like the best and kind of get a feel for how to do it. So I'm literally just kind of dabbing my brush in my ink and then kind of scraping it onto my cup. I don't really push down too hard. I just kind of let the brush and the ink do its thing. I am using a mixture of inks in my bowl because I kind of like that look. I think it looks a little bit more natural that way, but again, you can kind of play around and see what looks you like the best. So I'm kind of doing some long strokes, some shorter strokes. Really play around with this and have fun. Don't overthink it. There's really not a lot of thinking to this process. So you're just going to repeat this over your entire cup. I did forget to do the bottom, and then when I did the bottom, I forgot to film it, but I literally just did the same thing on the bottom as I did around my entire cup. So this is really going to kind of give you that weathered wood look. You'll still have that white peeking through. It's just going to be pretty natural and organic looking. So trust the process. Keep going around the entire cup until you love what you have. Once we have most of our inks applied, I'm going to go back through and just kind of check for any little bare spots or any spots where I want to add a little bit more of that slate or a little more Sweet Chestnut just to get that perfect look. Apologies if you can hear my 11-month-old in the background. She is talking up a storm over there, playing with her toys. So we're just going to go ahead and finish our inks. Now these inks will dry like instantly, and we're ready to move on to decals. So this sunflower template I bought on Etsy. I will of course link the shop down below. So I searched and chose this one because it already came in layers. So it has the black base layer, the petals are in 2 different layers, and then the center. So I uploaded it into Cricut Design Space. Now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it because I want to mark each layer so it's easier to put together. Hopefully that makes sense. So the first thing I'm going to do is hide different layers from each image so that they're separate because we're going to cut them in different vinyl. So we're going to have our base and then our petals. The fewest petals in the center I'm going to group together because I want those both to be my printed vinyl. So I'm going to go ahead and attach those so that they turn into the same layer. And then the third flower, we're going to remove the other layers and just keep the one that we haven't kept already. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm sorry if it doesn't, but you can kind of see what I'm doing here. So these are the final petals. I'm going to attach these because in the SVG they don't come previously attached. So now I'm just going to center them all, make sure I didn't mess up any of the sizes. I just want to make sure everything's going to line up. And I'm going to go ahead and change the yellow because the dark brown was not as easy for me to see. So anyway, now we're going to go through and mark the layers. So I've lined everything up. You could see when I arranged them like horizontally and vertically, it was a little bit off, so I just fixed that. And then I'm going to use a star and I'm going to put that here, and now I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to duplicate it for each layer that we have. And this is just going to help when we layer our vinyl, make sure everything is lined up. Typically, I don't do the shape, but for a more detailed layer like this, I don't want to have to be kind of twirling the petals to find out how they line up, and this is just easier. So I'm going to duplicate it for each layer, and then I'm going to go back through and hide all but one color for each layer. And then I'm going to attach it to that little star. And you just want to make sure that you don't move the decal at all or the little star at all, because that's going to help us line it up. So I'm going to do it here for these petals, and then we'll do it one more time for the fewer petals and the center. Although this part, sometimes I always accidentally delete the wrong layer, but that's okay. We can undo it and go again. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I have to scroll to the side because every time I clicked, it would click the layer I wanted to keep. So a little bit of a struggle, but it's easier than I make it look, I promise. There we go. So, okay, delete the wrong layer again. This was a struggle for me. Here we go. There we go. Got it. Now you're going to highlight that and attach the star to your final layer. So now you've got all three layers with your little layer marker, and I'm just going to line them up again, make sure that I didn't mess any of the sizing up or anything like that. There we go. So that's my decal. Once it's layered, it will look like that. I'm going to go ahead and save my project. And now I want to have more than one size sunflower. So I'm going to duplicate and then adjust the sizing a little bit. I'll put the sizes for the sunflowers below because it's kind of hard to see on the screen. But I just kind of play around with the sizes to figure out what I like. I want one a little bit smaller than the other, and then I'm going to make 3 of each sunflower, so 6 total. I don't know if I'll use all 6, but I like to cut like an extra one just in case I mess something up with the layering or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and cut it. So you can see I have the black base, the kind of golden yellow, and then the printed vinyl is a small scale leopard print. That is from the Glitter Guy, and I will link that vinyl below, and I'm pretty sure I used the smallest size. I'll double check on that and put that down there as well. So the printed vinyl I did for the least amount of petals and the center. And so now we're going to go ahead and layer our decal. So I prefer to use a mat when I'm layering. I can set my pieces on there and they don't slide around and move, so it just helps me get everything lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up the golden petals first, and then I'm going to layer those over the leopard. Then I will pick up both of my petal sets and then put them over the black. So my little star, that's where it's going to come in handy. I'm just going to line it up as close as possible. So I want to put that yellow star right over that leopard star. Then I'm going to pick up these pieces on my transfer tape, and I'm going to repeat the process on that black background. So I will take the little star again from this vinyl and layer it perfectly on top of the star on my black piece of vinyl. So this just, again, helps you get everything layered, where this is more of a detailed thing. I can't just look at it and say, okay, this is where the petals line up. So this is where that little star comes in handy. So we're just going to layer that right on top of our black. And then you're going to go ahead and repeat this process for all of your flowers. I prefer to layer everything and then put all my decals on instead of layering them one at a time and putting them on. That's just what I prefer, but you can do whatever you prefer. So then carefully remove this from your mat so that you don't get any bubbles on there. And then, like I said, repeat the process. So once my sunflowers
we'll
are
ready
finished,
to move on to the next step.
to my quote, I found the one that I'm going to use on Etsy. I, of course, will link the shop down below. It says, "Follow your bliss." It is adorable and just fits with the vibe of the cup. I wanted to do an offset on my text to tie into my sunflowers, so I ended up using the same leopard printed vinyl, and I decided to just go with an offset around the square and not the words. I did end up cutting the entire offset out of the leopard printed vinyl, and then I just pulled up the words so that only the square was left when I layered it. That was just the easiest, quickest way that I found to do it. So go ahead and apply your quote. You want to make sure you measure so you get it on nice and straight, and then you're going to move on to your sunflowers. Before you apply your sunflowers, you're going to want to trim off your little star that you use to help you layer them, because you don't want that going on your cup. So there really isn't a rhyme or reason for where I'm putting my sunflowers. I'm just kind of looking at my cup and deciding where I want space to be filled. You will see I have a few sunflowers that had like a piece cut off. I had one that, I don't know, had a giant wrinkle in it when I layered it, and I just cut off the imperfect part, and then the other one layered really weird. I'm not sure what happened, but it ended up being kind of a happy accident because I placed them on the edge of the cup so that you don't have the entire sunflower, but it ended up working out really cute. We're going to go ahead and apply the rest of our sunflowers, and after we're finished with that, we're going to jump right into epoxy. I don't seal my inks. I never have, and I don't have any issues with them doing anything funky with the epoxy. So this cup will get 3 layers. I don't like to send out a cup with any less than 3 layers of epoxy, and it will be finished. I love how quickly this design came together. I adore just the freedom that your brain has when you're applying your inks and applying your decals. This was just so much fun to create. I hope that you found my tutorial helpful and enjoyable to watch. If you did, I would love a thumbs up on my video. If you want to see future tutorials, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I do plan to continue to upload a new tutorial every single week. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy crafting!